Besides diffusion, there are 3 other ways that molecules move into and out of your cells. The first way is called osmosis. Osmosis is exactly the same as diffusion, but instead of just any random molecule moving, osmosis only applies to water. So when water moves from a high concentration to a low concentration until it reaches equilibrium, that's called osmosis. Here's another example. This is showing you a tube separated by an artificial membrane. Let's pretend this is a plasma membrane in the middle. The purple dots represent molecules, and the blue liquid in the background is just water. Look at the 2 sides of the test tube. The left side has less molecules, less purple dots, than the right side. So the left side has more water. I'm going to say that again. Because it has less purple molecules, there is more room for water. So the left side has a higher concentration of water than the right side. Therefore, we know that water moves from a high concentration of water to a low concentration of water, which means the water will move to the right of the tube. That is exactly what happens. Water moved from a high concentration to a low concentration, and it moved to the right. Another way molecules can move through the plasma membrane is called facilitated diffusion. Facilitated diffusion is when big molecules move from a high concentration to a low concentration, but because they are so big, they can't fit through the plasma membrane, so they have to go through a protein. This picture is showing facilitated diffusion. These molecules, these yellow dots here, are representing big molecules. They cannot fit through these phospholipids of the plasma membrane, so instead they have to go through a protein. This is why it's called facilitated diffusion and not just diffusion. Normal diffusion is when molecules can go straight through the plasma membrane, straight through the phospholipids. But big molecules need help, and to facilitate means to help. So what helps them move through the plasma membrane are these proteins. So big molecules moving through proteins from a high concentration to a low concentration is called facilitated diffusion. The final way molecules move through the plasma membrane is called active transport. Active transport is the exact opposite of diffusion. Did you hear me? The exact opposite of diffusion. It's the movement of substances from a low concentration to a high concentration using a protein. We just learned in diffusion that it went from high to low without a protein. Active transport, since it's the opposite of diffusion, goes low to high with a protein. This process requires ATP. It requires energy. Whenever you see a diagram of molecules moving from a low concentration to a high concentration using ATP, it must be active transport. Here's an example of active transport. Notice these hydrogen ions are being pumped into this extracellular fluid. And in this case, it might be talking about your stomach or something. The way that you know this is active transport is notice there's a low concentration of hydrogen here, a high concentration of hydrogen here, so it's going low to high. And the big clue that this is active transport is this ATP molecule. Whenever you see ATP as part of something moving, it must be active transport. Here's another picture, low to high with ATP, must be active transport. Here's a nice summary of 3 out of the 4 types of molecule transport. This picture is not showing you osmosis. It's showing you diffusion, which is the first one we learned, high concentration to low concentration, no energy is required and no protein is required. Osmosis we skipped. Facilitated diffusion is the movement of molecules from a high concentration to a low concentration with the help of a protein. Active transport is the exact opposite. It goes from a low concentration to a high concentration with the use of ATP. Write down your questions and ask me in class.